Hey everyone, Douglas here, and welcome back to the MMT Macro live stream. I think you can hear me. Hopefully, you've been able to hear Bijou. Bijou, can you talk real quick? No, you haven't been. I don't think they've been able to hear Bijou either. That is a bummer, but yeah, you guys should all be able to hear me. Thank you. I apologize about that. I don't know what happened. Sincerely.
These things happen.
Let's see. I'm going to go there. Go ahead and say something out, Bijou. Guys, sorry about this. Live TV. Yeah. But Bijou, you should be good. It was everything was on my end. Was the issue. I think everyone can hear Bijou. Anyway, welcome everyone to the MMT Macro live stream. And yeah, we're back. We're back. A week has passed, and everything was looking pretty darn bullish in the markets up until today. We had in fact, in short order, within like less than 10 trading days, 8 trading days. I don't remember the exact count. Well, yeah, it'd be less than 5, 6, 7 trading days. We were able to remake all the losses that we got during or post bank crisis. So
yeah. Incredible.
And then that all reversed today. We gave up like 1.5% today, but we'll be talking about that. If someone can give me a thumbs up, just make sure that you guys can hear Bijou as well. If you can give me a thumbs up in chat, that would be helpful. What's going on, Josh? What's going on, Monique? What's going on, Vicus? Hamel, welcome aboard. Thanks everyone for saying hi. And yep, all good. Cool. Well, welcome. Bijou, how you doing, man?
Yeah, man. All right. Quite a bit going on. Had a bit of a late night, so just warning everyone. If I have any jokes tonight, they might come out a little bit drunk sounding. It's going to be a bit of a risk, but that's okay. It's like when you wake up. You have an early exam, like a morning exam, and you're going into school or uni, and you're sort of on the halfway there, and you sort of feel like, oh, I really didn't prepare well, or like what I did once in my life. I usually had some quite rigorous exam preparation stuff, schedules that I stuck to. But one time I just studied for the wrong exam. I just got my schedule out of order. I did it sort of staggered, like 3 days this one, 3 days this one, 3 days this, and then it would rotate. And I just found out one morning I'd studied for the wrong exam.
Oh no!
Actually, it was the night before, but I had to get some sleep, and so I got up and I just had to go at it. It wasn't too bad. It was the only course in maths that I got a B+ on. It's like instead of an A. So. But they do mark things over here a bit more loosely than I think in the States. I don't know, or especially in Russia. So yeah, it was all right. But that's kind of what I feel right now. Like,
nice.
Live streaming on YouTube, I find, is kind of like an exam to me. It's got that kind of same little bit of
in terms of prep.
level of stress or something.
Okay. Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
I feel the same thing too. Actually, in college, I always did best on the test that I didn't study for, and just had to go with what had I'd learned through osmosis in the meantime. So yeah,
right.
And our best streams turn out to be the ones where we've kind of prepped the least for.
That you're a bit drunk for or something. It's like, afterwards, you feel kind of okay about it too. It's kind of like, oh, good. The ones you study really hard for, you're bummed out if you actually do a bad job in the exam.
Yeah,
it's like, oh damn, that question.
Yeah,
that one question.
I'll never forget.
It's good to be here.
I had a test when I was in college. I'll never forget this. It was like some psychology class, something like that, or it was early on. Didn't really matter. Didn't really put much effort into it. And I get to the test, and I'm looking at the test, and I can tell this thing has been like photocopied 100 times. Right? It's like the 100th time that we've received a photocopy. Yeah. I'm looking at it, and I'm like, that looks like an eraser mark. like that looks like someone's actually circled the answer already.
The answer. Oh, yes.
And I'm holding the thing up, and I'm looking at it and kind of looking at it different light. Every single answer on it had been circled and erased.
Yeah.
That's the. I mean, you've been a teacher. Maybe you've done this before, but I probably 75% of the questions on that test I remember. You could see what the answer was. Whoever the professor was had circled the answer. I'm like, this is a dream come true, man. I mean, I did zero prep for this stupid test. I don't care about this class. I mean, it's fun stuff, interesting enough. But here it is. The professor gave me a test with all the answers circled on it. erased them and then photocopied it.
So,
I'm looking around at
some
everyone
of
else in
them
the class.
usually-
I'm like, am I the only one seeing this?
Jeez.
So the question is, are the answers for tonight's live stream already circled on the test? Or,
Yeah, they were circled. Or if you're really old school, like they're on the chalkboard, but the eraser was one of those ones where it doesn't erase properly.
the ghost lines are still stuck. Yeah, that's hilarious. Anyway, welcome everyone to hopefully another fun week. We do have some stuff to talk about tonight. We are going to get in pretty much right away. I'll get rolling here as people roll on themselves on some market discussion. Interesting things happening in the market. Last few macro updates have been on the Patreon feed have been really important. I think there's some things that at least I want to share with everyone, and we'll get rolling on that in a minute.
That'd be good.
Fed rate rate hike decision today. We'll talk about that. Other than that, we'll see what else comes up in chat. If you guys have any questions, anything you want me to hit on, we can definitely discuss. But anything on your end? Anything else week wise?
Oh, not really. Another busy week. Students wanting some extra classes and things, and doing some work on your dashboard and that. So it's not. I've been trying to keep up with the reading, but I had a lot of tabs on my browser open to read, and kind of trying to get through them, but not having much luck. Did read. So no, I don't think I'd read Nathan Tanks' latest one.
This week on Twitter has been great, though. We will be going over some tweets. Warren Mosler has been on fire.
Okay.
The guy has been
definitely pull those up. Yeah, that'll be good.
Been both guns a-blazing, as they say.
Yeah, is he maybe operating under the assumption that everyone sort of knows what he's talking about, or is it's like suggesting, this could be the case, but the regulations make it not the case. There was always that sort of little issue with his tweets. It's like, this is what we could do, but it's what we're not doing.
Yeah. I do feel like he has the right to act and talk as though it's his world and everyone else is living in it, because he's one of the few people who is really who's earned that right. And I do. The other thing too, and there was a specific tweet that he had that I want to spend some time looking at, and I got to catch back up on the whole gist of it. We were talking about it before we went live, but I do think that after you spend, and I get this as well, after you spend enough time in the MMT world, when people say things that are just so contra to reality, it's hard to get back in that headspace, and it seems so obvious. Like if someone were to say, the Fed is really tightening financial conditions by increasing interest rates, right? Like that is nonsensical to me, right?
Yeah. Some sort of some parallel universe language there. Tightening. Let's see. What do you mean by tightening? You go back to the normie dictionary.
It really would be like if someone started talking about astrology, right? I mean, it would be like that. Like clearly it means something to them, but to me,
something's in alignment. Yeah.
That has no meaning to me. And so I'm like trying to, when I see stuff like that, I agree. And especially when it should be from kind of MMT adjacent people, I can understand his frustration.
Right. Yeah. I'm not sure if Richard Vegas too MMT adjacent. Okay, that's the problem. The other thing is, okay. So our chat that we've got here, our loyal followers on the live stream, MMT Trader and that Patreons, they've got this. By learning MMT, you've massively increased your IQ on this particular domain. But as far as the whole rest of the world is concerned, you've dramatically decreased your IQ. This is the world. This is how we operate.
Yeah. Although I'll tell you what, one of the things that I do appreciate, and where I feel that the people that I see that have adopted MMT, this is not across the board, but consistently the people that are willing to take the time to view MMT are usually the most open-minded. I mean that in the most in the most kind of scientific way, right? They are
Okay.
Theory
testers, natural theory testers, hypothesis testers.
Yeah, they're tinkerers. They're curious. They have traits that I admire. Right? They have a desire to just to first and foremost learn. It comes off that way, that they just want to understand more than anything else. And that's not to say they're naive. That's not to say that they are easily persuaded by bad arguments or anything, but they have just a consistent. Joe Weisenthal always comes to the top of my mind, right? Like he's just a guy who is just naturally curious in the best sort of way, but he's willing to ask. Like when he had the interview with Bankman Fried, and he's like, "So wait, you're running a Ponzi scheme?" And he's willing to ask him. You know what I'm saying? He's not going to pull any punches, but people like him who are will hear out MMT and be like, yeah, you know what? I mean, that fits in the way that I view the world, and yet he's still very critical where he needs to be. And so I consistently see people like that see what MMT has to say, and they're like, okay, I can I can at least go along with the argumentation. Let's hear it further. Yeah. And so I'm glad. I mean, I'm glad that's the sort of people that that are in our group. That are in our tribe, as much as I don't really care for tribalism, but you get what I'm saying.
Now you're getting unscientific, because that's like a confirmation bias.
Exactly. Yeah,
I get it. Yeah. In fact, I agree. It's never going to be so that there's no amount of evidence that'll make the hypothesis true that all MMTs are good, nice, open-minded people. But it is actually, socially speaking, in a social sense, it's actually a very good thing. It makes the whole space of MMT discourse really quite good to enter. And like as Warren says, it's like, well, who would have thought there'd be this mass well, I don't want to call it mass movement, but this huge movement of people interested in central bank monetary operations.
Yeah.
There's got to be something else to it, right? It's about the underlying issue of, we understand this thing. So the money system isn't about austerity. That's the real economy that's got to have to ration, not the monetary economy. And you open up all that whole space, and it is, even though it's narrowing your view of economics down to this sort of these principles and these rules and regulations and the legal system, the legal reality of it all, it opens up the whole fiscal space.
Yep.
That's the exciting aspect.
Yep.
And I mean, I'd agree with you. I think it's like, it is quite a phenomenon. Yeah. Does Joe always get it right? No, I don't know, man. I've heard some strange things on those podcasts. They sometimes slip into fixed exchange rate thinking a little bit.
Yep.
That's the main problem, I think, that people get. It's unbelievable, when you realize what exactly a floating exchange rate does for you. It's a huge change, and I don't think people see it quite that way when they first encounter MMT. And speaking of which, I just thanks to Adam and Ryan on Applied MMT podcast, I got a buzz from a ping from a dude in New Zealand who's used to be a management science professor, and I think he's retired now. And he just contacted me because he liked the episode, and he just wanted to connect with me because he knows I'm in New Zealand, and so that was another good one. And another person who's kind of really decent. His son actually got a horrific brain injury, and they have to look after him. So he retired actually early to do this, but it got him interested in, well, by necessity, not interested, but by necessity active in what we have here in New Zealand, Accident Compensation Corporation, the ACC. So they handle cases of people who've had accidents, or it could be at work, it could be sports, certain classes of injuries that you can get guaranteed healthcare for, and long-term sort of management for your issues. And so this is what his son qualified for. And so there's deep MMT issues with that he wants to talk to me about. you know, it's a
That's
matter
awesome.
of the real
That's awesome.
real resources for the healthcare, not the money. But the ACC are always budgetary constrained. They're
Yeah.
very stingy in what they will deliver for you. And so yeah, it's cool. So,
What
yeah,
I was saying is that's
people.
awesome that you got some good connections out of that, not the
Oh yeah,
unfortunate
exactly. Yeah, I
situation
know.
in which. Okay.
That's the mistake I was going to make tonight.
God, yeah.
uh,
D-
yeah.
Ryan and Adam over at Applied MMT Podcast, man, they are popping off. It's really cool that we both got to be on their pod. I mean, I think hopefully we'll start to take off, and they are both very smart guys, and the podcast is well thought out. So if you're in the finance space too, and you want to kind of get some MMT ideas from an investment standpoint, they're coming up with some really original stuff there as well. So I'm excited to see. I'm building the backlog. I'm one or two behind on their podcasts, but we'll be catching up soon. All right, guys, I'm going to show some of the things I'm seeing. Yeah, it's been a while since we've talked markets, so we'll talk markets for a minute.
Okay.
Let's see. Okay, S&P was down like 1.5%. I mean, you guys, one of the questions that came up too already in chat is how do I treat mid-April tax drain in your market navigation decisions? I'll touch on that along the way. Long story short, I think flows on the very short run can press on underlying weaknesses or strengths, right? I mean, if a market is oversold, right, meaning the market's it's kind of lower than what you might call fair value, right? If the market's oversold, then I think a large influx of fiscal spending at a bottom can really rocket prices higher, and vice versa. If markets are overbought and you have tight financial conditions just because of the natural banking cycle, not because of what the Fed is doing, but just the natural banking cycle, the endogenous cycle might be at its top, that a fiscal drain in that situation can be very problematic. And so that's kind of my take on flows in the short run. In other words, I'm not going to be shorting the market just because there is a drain coming from the tax side of things. You know, last year would have been a great opportunity to do something like that, but not every April into through June do we necessarily see sell-offs occur because of the drain. So that's kind of my short answer on that. But let's see. Today the Fed said they are seeing tightening after SVB's collapse, and this is one of the things that Mosler brought up. And one of his tweets is that there could be a situation where banks kind of get into this. So banks have just the broader regulation that they have to attend to, right? There are regulations in place in terms of what they can create loans for and what the composition of their balance sheet is going to look like. That's pretty well known stuff now. They have certain liquidity ratios they have to hit, right? And then on top of that, they also have their own internal regulations, their own internal kind of benchmarks that they have to hit for various risk measurements or just assets they're allowed to hold. And the reason this all matters is, one, if banks determine that they might have say liquidity risks because of interest rate changes and an interest rate regime, right? They might have to sell off some of their assets, and there might not be buyers, or it's going to depress price, and then you can get kind of a cascading event occurring. They sell their assets, that reprices the assets lower, and it makes the balance sheet regulatory juggle even more difficult, and you can get some cascading selling,
spiral down.
Spiraling down because of that. So
they also have the stress tests. Is that what you meant by the internal? Are those stress tests also regulated? I mean, they have to do some minimum stress tests.
The stress tests are what the Fed and the policy makers will put them through. I should say the regulators will put the banks through if various conditions come about. What would their books look like? But they also have internal policies that are just solely based on the bank themselves determining whatever it is they might determine. And so banks could say, hey, we're going to be a little bit more stricter in lending. Right.
Mm.
And this is where I would like to pick his brain, because he's obviously a former banker, and he's probably one of one in terms of former bankers and, complete MMTers. But my question would be, okay, I can understand banks saying, okay, we got to be a little careful here. We might have a little bit more exposure than we thought we would. We're a little worried about depositors making a run on us. But my thought, and therefore, hey, we're going to be a little bit more strict than we normally would have in terms of creating new loans, right? We might not make that last loan that we would have, or whatever.
Mm.
But my question is, doesn't that open up the opportunity for a bank to come in that is playing at the margins, that does need to take a little bit more risk, to come in and say, yeah, hey, I'll make that loan, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, I always separate the loans from the deposits, so I'm not even sure if things are operating even as the way they could operate, even under all the regulations. It's like this is a bit of weird psychology going on. They can still make loans. They can still buy someone's promise to repay.
Yeah.
But they ran out of liquidity, and the FDIC was only prepared to give up to $250K for the venture capitalists. Oh no, but there were ways to get around that, as Nathan Tankers wrote about. There's a bit of slow acting there, and so you get this a bank run where there doesn't need to ever be a bank run situation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess you're right. It's like, yeah.
So even then, I guess that's the other thing too. If banks feel as though their deposits,
you're right. You said the other banks will totally be fine taking the deposits.
Yeah, if the deposits come their way,
or the loans, whichever way the customers want to go.
Exactly. Yeah. If a customer wants to open up, so it seems like competition would come in and fill the void.
Yeah.
Right. And if you're a small bank and you're like, hey, I'm better off. I'm better off taking the risk and being right and getting the bigger score than I am not taking the risk and being wrong, because either way, only one path leads to the major success that they would want, which is taking the risk and being right that things aren't going to collapse. So
that's the other thing is the all the neoclassicals, all the central bankers and treasury people. This is stuff that I read like in New Zealand treasury documents back in the day. They all say they want the discipline to be from the customers.
Yeah.
So what happened to SVB and Silvergate? Oh, the customers discipline the banks. Well, hang on, they're not supposed to do that. What? You just said this is what you want. This is what you want. You want the customers fleeing from the bad bank that they consider to be a risk and going to a bank that they consider to be safe.
Yeah.
So, as Warren points out, this is complete madness. It doesn't really work, and it was just a guess by Peter Thiel or whoever that SVB is maybe in some sort of trouble, not insolvent, but maybe they weren't looking so healthy on the balance sheet, and so a few whispers on the WhatsApp or whatever these people use, Parler or whatever it is, and then all of a sudden a run.
Yep.
So it's all just all crazy, but it's going to have some real world effects too, which is unfortunate.
I do feel like one of the policy suggestions that got brought up in the Twitter sphere, which is probably a good one, if you do want to continue to push discipline from the deposit side, right, from the liability side, what you need to do is you need to allow depositors to deposit at the central bank for a zero interest rate, right?
I thought the competition for depositors chasing retail deposits was supposed to be just in the private bank.
That's what I'm saying is if you want some sort of return on your deposit, right? If you want 2% or whatever, then that's fine, right? Go to go to a private bank, but that you can always have a central bank where you can deposit your money if you want to, right? I mean, there's always there's always bank number ABC 12345 6 for Douglas, always waiting there, right?
Okay, there's this backup for for just handling your payments.
Yeah,
regular,
exactly.
like
Just
so. In that case, would you bother with the full 100% deposit insurance proposal of
MMT?
MMT?
That's exactly it, right? You wouldn't need it then, right? Because then then that would be
so there's those two options. I'd go for the 100% deposit insurance.
Yeah, I don't want that. I don't want
take
that
the decision
option.
out of.
I don't want that option, but
yeah. Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying it's a possibility that we could all have access to a central bank, or and I think you're right, Josh. I think that's what the postal banking used to be. Yeah.
So you're saying the other option. So if you really are one of these free market ideologues, you could say, let the banks use the interest rate that they're prepared to give their depositors to attract depositors.
Yeah.
But here's the other thing. Here's my question. I wanted to ask Warren a little bit too. Is why the hell do banks even need deposits? It's just scorekeeping. So they're providing a service. This is just my MMT take, right? This is not the real world as we know it. But this is life that we don't know it. The deposit holders go to a bank because they want to use the bank services. They stick some deposits in, some score points. The bank uses them to make payments for them to other deposit holders and the tax department and whoever. And that's basically the end of the story. So deposits should not be seen as funding the banks. But I think under the regulations, am I correct? They kind of are, right? And the way that the regulations are set up. And so that would be one thing that I would just want to totally just clean up and make much more transparent. The banks don't need your deposits.
Yeah.
They need to make loans because they get interest from you if they buy your promise to repay, and other services and fees, and so forth. They can charge small fees. And so if they want to have a whole lot of staff and they want to grow their bank to fill a gap, they can then be chasing customers by offering, sweet deals and nice terms, good interest, an interest rate spread above the base rate that you could get if you just decided to go with the central bank. Okay, this is the MMT world. You can bank at the central bank in our kind of MMT world, which is not the real world at the moment. But that would be my take on things. Central bank digital currency would be basically deposits at the central bank, and just an option that you don't get any deals or fanciness with it. You just get a way to just move your money around to make payments. Yeah, totally on board with that, Ken. So so again, it comes back to Warren. So what would be your take on how he's been framing it? Because I still think that sometimes he's talking about what he thinks the world should be like rather than what it actually is.
Yeah.
But obviously he said in the MMT podcast episode recently that that I don't think he said that the deposits shouldn't be funding the banks, but that is in some of his white paper stuff. But definitely the customers, you and me, Joe the plumber, shouldn't be the ones expected to discipline the banks.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah,
this makes no sense. In any case, even if another bank over somewhere else, offered me higher interest rates, I'm probably not going to be doing the research to find out. Not really that interested because I'm Joe the plumber. I'm not Joe the financial bro.
Yeah,
he's always looking around for the best deal possible, and his whole life is just shopping. So my life is not just shopping. I have other better things to do. Right, shopping is a very annoying thing for me. So yeah.
Well, the other thing too is it's one thing to have a free market where you're determining a decision between I want the features that an iPhone give me over the features that an Android give me, right? You don't need to be in need to be an expert to know if the phone you're buying might end up ruining your life, right? Like you don't need to be an expert in phones, but you do need to be an expert in banking to understand the risk you're taking. I'm sorry, you need to be an expert to understand how you would even evaluate a bank to know if it's the right decision to keep a large amount of deposits in that bank, right? In other words, maybe the other way I would put it is the last thing we would want is market discipline on determining the flight worthiness of an airplane, right? Like you'd want experts and regulators and policymakers that have spent their entire lives in aeronautics and to say we've vetted this thing for you, it's safe, go ahead and get in it, you know what I mean? So
it's almost as if like decades of neoclassical neoliberalism monetarism have so thoroughly undermined people's trust in the system that they don't think there's any experts anymore. And so I think the neoclassicals convinced themselves of this, or at least the Austrians did. It's like, well, there are no experts, and so we're not going to use expertise to discipline the banks. We're going to use the public because the market knows all.
Yeah,
like the omniscient market is completely nuts.
Which it sounds like,
and it's not rocket science to discipline a bank or do the stress test.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Whip up some software for it. Friggin' just have a look at it daily.
Yeah.
Pay someone to do it so that their salary depends on it being correct. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. That makes sense. You'd get independent evaluators that would solve that problem.
Yeah, but that's what the government's doing. They're just paying the contractor to do it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, what's public, what's private? My brother works he's a vet, but he works now in the New Zealand's Ministry for Primary Produce, or whatever it's called, agriculture, fisheries, horticulture, protecting New Zealand from the invasions, but and getting good trade deals for our exports and so forth. But like I keep telling him, you know, it's like you're the private sector when you go home. When you go to work, okay, maybe you're the public sector, but you're being paid by the government. So you're actually the private sector coming into the public sector and doing some work. And then when you go home and clock off work, you're back in the private sector. So I like to sort of muddy the waters and make it a bit fuzzier about what really is private, what really is public.
Yep.
In terms of monetary system, it's very clear. It's like the accounts that are, government accounts are public, and our bank accounts are private. so yeah, I don't know. I mean, I get it. I totally get the libertarians not wanting the central bankers to sort of quote unquote own their deposits or manage the payment system. Maybe there's no trust in there, but you really trust a private sector central banker better because their salary depends on doing proper banking, right? That just raises to me the whole issue. Well, it just means they haven't read William Black, how to best way to rob a bank is to own one. That's right. Central bankers historically don't commit a lot of fraud. They make stupid decisions, but I don't know if there's ever been a case of fraud in the government at that kind of low level or operations level. A lot of it's just software. It's like you have to go to extraordinary effort to commit the fraud and do some hacking. And in any case, your salary is guaranteed by the government. It's usually pretty decent. Whereas a commercial bank, no, they're scrapping around for profit, and they'll break the law if they can, or go as close as they can. And it's like I think the free marketeer ideologues have just got it wrong in that sense. If you make the incentive to make a profit as a private banker, the incentive is to push the limits of the law, That's why Mosler comes up with these proposals. Just tell bankers what they can do. Don't
Yeah.
don't don't
Yeah.
don't give them a whole list of what they can't do, because
Yeah.
they'll always get around
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
No matter how long you make the list.
um.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it's hard to
And
talk to libertarians because they do have this story.
to be clear, Hamel brings up a really good point here, and I mean it's worth noting. I mean. It's not like the government is great at it either, right?
Right.
So I'm not saying, but they'd be a lot better at it if they understood how they serve the public purpose. And yeah, I'll digress. I want to get back onto some market discussion, so I'm gonna try and rein myself back in. Couple interesting things that I've been seeing. I'm going to show you guys a few of the line items that I do track. This is from the H.8 report. So that's the bank balance sheet report. And so total assets is what I have pulled up right now. And I mean, you can see it overlays pretty closely with the S&P 500. I've never, well, I take that back. I mean, I've done kind of the litany of tests that we do on all these, the various statistical tests. And I'm not saying this is like the best leading indicator, but nevertheless,
that chart shows you've got eras. You've got regimes where things get a bit weird.
Yeah. And especially from total assets, right? I mean, it's, what I'm trying to say is, don't think this is the end all be all of everything, but certainly when certain trends kick in, it's worth paying attention. And starting in last few months, we'd really been seeing total assets kick higher here. But the last 2 weeks, this is rate of change or percent change from a year ago. We've seen total assets just roll over. So again, I mean, what I'm trying to suss out here is the banking sector under duress right now? Is it broader than just SVB? A little bit of a concern from total assets. We can also do bank credit as well. Now, bank credit has been plummeting, going all the way back through essentially, from mid 2022 onward. So we've seen that plummet as well. Again, concerning. And then the last few weeks, it's kind of re-accelerated. One of the line items that I always pay the most attention to is other securities. And again, up until just the last 2 weeks, we'd seen other securities really start to pop up in terms of rate of change. And this is one of the things that triggered my Bayes model to turn higher and anticipate higher returns. And it's fallen off over the last few weeks. So either we're just seeing kind of the long bottoming situation play out where, we're just seeing the next cycle kick higher. Very similar stuff played out through, or at least so far, a similar look played out at the beginning of 2019 before the next big cycle kicked off, which culminated in a peak near the end of 2021, ultimately to reverse in 2022. Or are we going to get another deep leg lower here? So I am a little concerned from the banking data, which is one of the things, in fact, that Mosler said, pay attention to. Quite a few people have been tweeting me. What's my take? It's concerning. I'll admit it. It's concerning. Today's sell-off is isolated. I don't any given day's worth of price action is, I mean, it's always relative, especially after a big news event. So I'll wait for the dust to settle tomorrow. But this is concerning, without a doubt. With that being said, on the flip side, I do see some chat messages coming in. I'll take a look in just a second, everybody. We'll follow up in just a second. But on the flip side is where fiscal flows are going. And I've got the 90-day, what I call kind of on top here is the raw flow. So this is just the what I call the raw flow is just government spending without just the withdrawals, without any of the deposits coming back in, right? So just the spending without any taxes coming out here. And I mean, as you can see, we peaked in March. So March 15th is usually on this 90-day moving average is usually the peak in spending for the pre-tax season cycle. So you hit about mid-March and you get things to roll over. We were hitting 30 billion on average in spending per day, whereas if we go back to say 2018 or 2019, we were at about 21 billion and then 22 billion respectively between 2018 and 2019. So I mean, we are quite a lot larger in terms of just the actual spending the government has into the private sector from where we were pre-COVID. And then the net is the government spending minus tax receipts and any other deposits the government gets back in. But like 95% of it is taxes. And again, as you can see, pre-COVID during the March peak here, hopefully this is showing up. Pre-COVID in the March peak, we were at about 6 billion and we peaked at about just over 9 billion in the March peak. So again, much higher, and we would anticipate this trend to continue going forward. So government spending is hot, and there's no doubt about it. There's no reason to believe up until this will be the big caveat going forward. Up until the debt ceiling, if that ends up becoming an issue, but if the debt ceiling is not an issue, government spending is quite strong. And in reality, or I guess in theory, government spending should lead then bank balance sheet expansion because they'd have more capital and they'd have a little bit of a cushion to expand their balance sheet. So it's concerning to see the bank flow data give way after it looked like the reversal was kind of happening. But the fiscal side is just so strong here. The fiscal side is so strong, and I could see. I've been long. I started building out my long position at the end of last year. Kind of got pushed around by the wind a little bit. It was very choppy at the end of last year, but I think I've had a long position open now for at least 2 months or so. And I might be willing to close it out if we can't see that bank data change course. And then, of course, if it looks like the debt ceiling situation is going to become very problematic, I think that could be very much game over. And there's not much. Well, at that point, there's nothing the Fed can do. So those are my thoughts on the market right now in terms of where we're at. I know I haven't talked much in these live streams about market situations, but that's kind of how I'm seeing things. So it looks like most of the discussion has been not directly related to my market commentary. So if you have any questions, let me know. We can certainly jump back to this.
I was trying to.
Yeah, I saw you were helping out. No, I appreciate it.
When you said game over, my ears broke down. I have to say, hang on, what was Douglas just saying? Game over? What's this?
Yeah, game over. I mean, the debt ceiling issue, right? I don't think I even just Googled.
Yeah,
Chat GPT, not Google.
I know you guys shut down your government at one time, and that was what happened. So it was game over as far as government employees go. They had a couple of weeks holiday, whatever it was, and then everyone just came to their senses. So it's a matter of how extreme the GOP have become.
Yeah, yeah.
Do they actually just want to shut down government, including themselves? Or will they find a way to keep paying their own salaries, but shut down everyone else?
I mean, people who rely on Social Security probably don't need that, right? But I mean, politicians need their money.
Yeah, right. Crazy. So
nothing. I mean, I'm looking over headlines here. So it's so hard with headlines and. God, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. Oh no, it's just everyone just woke up a little bit and realized it's scorekeeping. They do. Yeah, something generally gives, right? So at the moment, my daughter was on a strike, teachers strike, because the recent wage negotiations didn't really keep the primary school teachers up to par and weren't doing anything. The main concern was not the teacher wages, but it was actually teacher-student ratios. So I wanted them to be brought down. And so they I think it was about a week, and it's like at that time, parents get a bit edgy, and they're having to find alternative daycare, blah blah. The cost does get shifted a lot onto parents, and usually things sort of give way. Someone gives way, some in some way usually. So I think that's what'll happen. So it'll be game over, and maybe for a week, and then the game will start back up. With huge disruptions, of course. It's just going to be crazy if the GOP really are that extreme.
But it sounds like they might. I mean, it sounds like they might get there. I don't know, man.
Yeah, they might get there. I don't know. It's so hard to tell. This is like you're trying to read the psychologies of these mad people. So what can you say? I guess there's going to be people doing a bit of prepping and what have you, and the rest of us are going to just clench our teeth and white knuckle it for a while, and until some sense prevails.
I rarely buy options anymore. I've tried to just follow the flow, make my bet, but this might be a situation where I buy some puts or something like that to kind of hedge here,
right?
To kind of hedge the risk as we kind of inch closer, because it's crazy to look at the calendar, but we're almost into April, and I mean I would say June's kind of the deadline for some sort of decision to be made. Ghost on the Half Shelf. I didn't catch the whole discussion.
Oh, Ken made a good observation or interesting question actually, which from time to time I think about, and I just put it aside, which is like let me try and go back to it. Ken heard Mosler say that the banks are required to match maturities between the assets and liabilities side. Makes me wonder how they make money. I thought that banking was borrowing short to lend long. So the thing is, the bank doesn't need to make money. They need to pay their staff and their CEO. So that all comes out, and then it's just that's just a transfer, right? There's nothing on the balance sheet. There are two sides of the balance sheet cancel out. The bank loses the money. The private persons who are the staff, they get the money. Now that goes to another bank. It might even be the same bank. Probably is the same bank.
Yeah.
So the bank's kind of, in a sense, kind of is paying itself in a way. But the way they can keep that going is, of course, they're charging fees, interest on the loans, and so forth. And so it all comes out in the wash. So even though the balance sheets definitely always have to balance, you're shifting around the equity, right? So ultimately, it all comes from the government. Okay, this is what you got to realize. It all comes from the government typing numbers into the accounts to increase the net money supply by running deficits. But if you don't have that, then the banks are just shuffling around the money amongst themselves, right? And so their staff, in that sense, the staff that the bank. This is where I'm interpreting Ken's question is, how do they pay themselves? How do they pay their own salaries and so forth? But on the balance sheet, they don't need to. It's always balanced. So it's just liabilities match assets, and then residual is the equity that whatever the stakeholders put in, shareholders or whatever. So I think that's how it works. They can raise more equity by selling shares and so forth, but that also is matched by liability, because they've got to pay out those shareholders if they've got anything left at the end of the day, if they actually do shut up shop. So I would say it's sort of what they're doing. They're more chasing shareholders perhaps more than depositors, even though the current regulations require them to also sort of chase deposits. And then Ghost in the Half Shell says something about how loans create the deposits. Yeah, so they don't need the deposits for that. So they don't need the deposits to make the loans. They just need a customer, right? So usually the customer will have a deposit account. It might actually be overdrawn. So they don't have any positive deposits, maybe. They might have a checking account and a credit account, but the net might be negative. So they're actually owing the bank something. So the bank's got an asset. They've got an overdraft from one of their customers who just happens to have a deposit account that's got $100 in it, but a credit card account that's got negative 1,000 on it or something like that. So it doesn't affect their ability to loan. It doesn't affect their ability to loan at all. The deposits. The
deposits, correct. Banks are only. I think you'd say banks are only constrained by effectively the capital constraints that they have. They're regulatorily, yeah, they're constrained by.
Well, they're constrained by the
They're
regulations
constrained by
on
the
who they can
yeah.
loan.
Yeah,
You're not supposed to give out ninja loans, for example.
yeah, exactly,
You're
exactly.
supposed to assess the credit worthiness of the customer then.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, what's going on,
And
Charles?
they have
Welcome
tight
aboard.
limits on credit cards. Yeah. Hi.
Um,
Yeah. So, did I skip anything?
Yeah, I don't know. I had a question pop up in my mind, and now it's now it's past. I should take a nap on Wednesday before we go live. Let's see. What else we got? What else do we got for tonight? We're thoroughly concerned.
Well, I wanted to have a look at some of those tweets, or if anything was really good as a highlight that you saw.
Yeah, give me one.
I've got some poetry too. I put on YouTube, right? So let me type it. Let me repeat that in my thing while you're trying to pull up whatever you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I can go to the I can go to the good one, I guess. I can just go right to.
Go to the good one. Go to the good one.
Whoops. Yeah, we'll bring up the. So this is sorry, I thought yeah, anyway. This is a tweet we were talking about before we went live, where Warren got particularly direct with his response. Oh, do you need me to share your screen while you write that up?
I'm trying to recreate them. I don't have it on screen on my other screen at the moment.
Okay.
No, you can just go with your tweet.
Keep going.
I think I had the tale of SVB was the one I tweeted.
What's I gonna say? Hamel, this one's for you right here. If you're still watching, my man, right there. Hamel knows what's up. Let's see. I don't agree, and misleading articles like this are highly counterproductive. So, the $1 million question is, what doesn't he agree with?
Yeah.
Higher rates are the proximate cause of this crash, and the Fed is entirely responsible for those rates. The irony, of course, is that the Fed is now rescuing banks from a problem of its own creation.
Yeah. Yeah, I think though everyone was blaming the bank, right? There was maybe some blame for the whisperers amongst the venture capitalists, but you know, it's like you say, the deposit holders can't be blamed if they want to just move their bank account somewhere else.
Yeah.
So there was a customer relations issue, and then one of the things was that SVB, I think, not Silvergate, but SVB had a pretty good customer relations. They were sort of, weren't they, you know, quite renowned for having a really good, sofas to sit on and whatever. So, good customer service.
That's what I like in my banks.
So you can't blame the deposit holders, and so you can't blame SVB if they weren't doing anything illegal.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So what do you think he disagreed with? Was it the article or was it the tweet?
Yeah, I disagree. It was so strong that it made me sort of shake my head a bit, and I thought, oh, that's going to be a good read. Not sort of. So I mean, I did go back and read just about the whole thing, and I couldn't really find anything like very terrible. The thing is, the whole thing is terrible. It's like the whole tone of it is that the bank was, you know, badly. They're making some bad decisions, and the whole thing. I mean, this has been all over the media about how the bank, how they just, got into bonds, made some, what would you say, gambles on the interest rate, and didn't pan out for them. So mark to market, their assets in the bonds go down. And, everyone knows the story better than I do. But the thing is about Richard Vague, the way he's writing it, he's writing it from that very sort of neoliberal perspective, where tis naughty bank. Actually, this came up. One number of people have made this comment. I think maybe, I don't know, Krugman and others. I forget who the last one was, but I've seen it many times now. I think even MMT guy Robert Hockett, they got into trouble for being a bank, right? being as a bank. What was the problem? It's because they were just being a bank. It's too much of a bank being a bank. I forget how they say. Yeah, it's
that's
the meme
clever
is
though.
something different to that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like they got penalized for this bank got penalized for being a bank. It's like so I think Mosler would sort of kind of agree, but it's the even though the regulations are as they are, they cause this whole event to happen. I think the point of the contention with these sorts of articles is just getting the whole kind of diagnosis backwards, putting the blame where it shouldn't be, I guess. And so it's extremely counterproductive. This is the main thing. It's extremely counterproductive to good public understanding. And it's just gonna and it creates a needless, pointless, panic amongst the public, and all this crazy talk about how the dollar's going to collapse, blah blah blah, and there's going to be this bank crisis, and all it is a crisis at the moment, not in the real economy. It's a crisis in these score points, how these score sheets are managed.
Yeah.
So it's like the dude in your football Super Bowl game went on strike.
Yeah.
And he's not going to issue any more score points to the to your guy. Who are your guys? Not the Washington Redskins, not the San Francisco 49ers. What are they? I don't know.
They're the New
England
Washington Commanders, and
is it? I forget who
your fans.
I should really understand you more.
They changed.
Sorry,
the one team had to change their name because
yeah.
it was very problematic.
But the other thing is their scorekeeper could go on strike, and then they have a bit of a problem having to use pencil and paper to keep the score at the Super Bowl. All the fans in the crowd could all keep score on a distributed ledger, and or a whiteboard or something.
Yeah,
and,
that would.
And then
I'm sure
through the market, you could get the score roughly correct.
Yeah. I'm sure. Yeah, whoever has the most fans wins the game.
So I like Warren. I love Warren for doing that. For that's the other thing about MMT is nice people, fairly open-minded, can come from all sorts of stripes and walks and politics, all different politics, and but they're all balls to the wall on Twitter. It's like, not afraid of that.
I scrolled through this article. This guy wrote a lot of words.
Yeah, he did.
Is a Twitter addict. I ain't got time for this, man.
So the way I put it, is this: here is the tale of SVB. Silvergate went to BTC. Depositors went to the USD. The Fed went to the IRD.
I'm sharing that screen now. That's pretty good.
You got to be a Kiwi. IRD is Inland Revenue Department.
Okay.
Where you guys have the service. It didn't rhyme, so sorry. Yelling, debts and melon, mint the coin and stop bond selling.
I like it, man. You should get into poetry here. Let's see. Yeah, apparently, I only listened to the first half, but apparently the MMT podcast that Mosler did was pretty good too. So I got to finish that.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, have a good.
Finish that as well.
It was a good one.
Yeah, so I guess I'm glad glad Mosler is out there.
That's a good one. Starts off with, well, if banks can create money, why don't the bank just pay itself? It's pretty good. It's always a good one to start with that sort of mental, that sort of cognitive dissonance.
Let's see. God, I'm guys. I'm sorry. You're catching me. I'm reading Twitter as we as we speak.
Oh, yeah.
I gotta get off the tweets.
I deliberately stayed off a little bit. Just said in my poetry the other day, there was a right winger I got a little bit engaged with who was, I couldn't resist because his on his Twitter bio it just said the left wing hates me because I ask them questions they can't answer, something like that. But anyway, he had no hope answering an MMT, and so I just kept on sort of agreeing with him wherever I could, and then just pointing out the reality, and then just saying, "What's your point?" Because he was like, "Okay, this is oh yeah, this goes back to the previous comment that I half thought that I didn't finish, which was that it's all score points being regulated. There's a scorekeeper who's got these regulations, the one you can write down on the balance sheets and so forth, or he or she, and so you know what to do if it's a purely financial issue or problem. Let's say it doesn't have to be a crisis, but a financial crisis can quickly become a real crisis if you start putting people out of work, even though they're bankers. Okay, so even bankers, have something to offer the world. So even if you put the bank staff or the venture capitalists out of work, the venture capitalists still, they might not be paying their own staff all that much. So the coffee, Starbucks sales go down a little bit. So things can snowball if you start to cause massive disruptions with the scorekeeping system. Eventually, if you're going to put a lot of people out of work, sure, it can have a massive impact on the real economy for no good reason. And so I think when Warren, I'm just imagining Warren now trying to be the mind of Mosler, so I have no idea. So he'll forgive me for putting words in his mouth. But okay, so let me just own it. I'll say what I think you'd object to the articles like Richard Vague and a lot of the others. I listened to a couple of others too, and they were getting it all wrong with their experts that they were bringing on to their shows, Seeking Alpha and all sorts of other ones. Probably even Naked Capitalism, although for some reason I stopped getting their emails a while back. Eves might have knocked me off their list for being too much of an aggressive MMT. I don't know. Or maybe I just got dropped randomly and I'll just have to re-sign up. But there was a few others that were just saying a similar thing to Richard Vague. And I would say, just stop it. Like stop saying this is some sort of crisis. It's not. It can be easily remedied.
Yes.
And if you don't have full grasp of MMT, so you don't have sensible regulations. Nathan Tankers has given you oodles away to shift around the numbers and the score point. So stop making it into a crisis because it's not really. Yes. But you're generating a crisis with all this talk and useless chatter.
Yeah.
And if that ends up unemploying people, then you have a real crisis.
Yep.
The real economy starts to suck.
Yep.
And what about if your SPX and all that goes down, right? Well, then a few people are going to tighten up on their grocery budget. And, enough people do that, you start to get some real recessionary pressures that were created out of a total fiction.
Out of it,
from all these people chattering on amongst the chattering class, just sort of talking up a recession. Crazy.
It's always I hate the explanation that it's some sort of behavioral phenomenon that drives market conditions that is contra to reality, right? But yet at the same time, I see it. I see it play out. I had an employee of mine. He did it. He cashed out his 401k, not cashed it out, but put it into cash, on February 28th of 2020. which was the low, right? And because he was freaking out. He heard this was the end of the world, yada yada yada. Markets are down 30%, and then I had another employee of mine come to me and Doug, what should I do here? And I'm like, friend, I know it sucks to lose 30%, and I had at the time. I mean, I was able to get out about out of the way of about 20% of the 30% drawdown, but I'm like, I'm down a little bit too. It stings. I recently got back in, and I got in a little early, but I'll tell you what, at least the fundamentals I look at look strong. And the amount of people that told me afterwards that they've just been in effectively cash since March of 2020, all because of this, and at least the COVID thing was a concern that was a legitimate concern coming from left field. I mean, the concern that's coming from the banking thing is purely contrived in the minds of monetarists, right? So it absolutely can become contagion if enough people. Well, yeah, I mean, look at even 2000. It's amazing to hear Mosler talk about 2008 and explain it in a way where it's like, all they had to do was just cut FICA for a year, and we probably would have passed through 2008 without a major crisis. Maybe we would have had a bit of a recession reset, but it didn't have to be.
I think there was a day where I didn't have toilet paper. Maybe
in 2008.
That was a real crisis. Oh, sorry, I was thinking COVID.
No, I'm back to 2008. Yeah.
2008. Yeah. There was no distinct pressure. Yeah. Sorry. I'm getting.
I jumped. Yeah, no. I'm jumping too fast. Yeah.
This is me just still waking up. But 2008. Far out. If ever there was a lesson, that should have been it. That no one had to be laid off for that. No one. There was no COVID. There's no reason for any unemployment.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, maybe the government should have came in and shut down some banks that were handing out ninja loans.
Yeah. Put them on a job guarantee.
Yeah. But 2008, I think, was a great example of a almost thoroughly contrived crises.
Yeah.
I like that, Thomas. 2008 Wall Street didn't have enough toilet paper, all the runs.
Yeah. The joke about that last line Fed went to the IRD is irresistible because it's both sort of true but false at the same time, and therefore very funny. Because everyone's screaming, they went to the taxpayer to bail out SVB and so forth. So it's funny to MMT is. It's too only to MMTs. Yeah, some other questions in the chat there. Did you have a?
Yeah, I'm seeing. Did you guys have any thoughts on the Credit Suisse US or UBS USB merger, UBS merger? Interesting seeing the headline of the additional Tier 1 bond holders going to zero while shareholders getting $2 billion.
The only thought I had on that was. Oh, sorry. Did
no,
you
go for it. No. Your thoughts will be more.
The only thought I had on that was in my other job. There's a chat group on WhatsApp, and so streaming through, someone points out, Credit Suisse, blah blah blah. This looks like really bad news, something like this. And all I was like is that well, it's so bad news because they make it bad news. It doesn't have to be. So they go into trouble. They get bought by the USB and what? It's like, again, turning a financial crisis into a real crisis is the real risk here. Yep. And people don't see how to me, it's like, to me reading, something happened with Credit Suisse. Initially I had no care in the world about it, so I didn't think much about it. What I thought about was the social phenomenon of what other people think about it. That's the interesting thing. Sorry. Yeah.
I mean, my only thought is all those gold bugs that have Credit Suisse stamped on their little ounce of gold nuggets,
Okay.
Yeah, they're gonna have to go bring that gold in and have it restamped.
Have to ship the gold around.
Yeah. To
Lorries.
to UBS now.
Well, they'll hire a few truck drivers.
That stamp's not gonna mean anything. You gold bugs will know. I mean, the little the little kilogram bars or whatever that the Credit Suisse is kind of famous for. Other than that, I mean, God, it seems like slowly but surely there will be one bank for each nation. Ironically,
ironic, man.
That's where it will. That'd be
hilarious.
That's where it will all finish.
That could happen in our lifetime.
I was a little surprised that the FDIC had the legal authority to suddenly come out and say they were going to cover deposits in excess of the limit. Yeah. I always go back to that analogy about the coach that I had that when he knew the season was going to be over, that all of a sudden he changed the rules and, let the best players play to try and extend the season. And I feel.
What was it again? Rule 13, bracket 3. Something like that.
Yeah.
Appropriately 13. Bring out the emergency measures. It's all legal, folks. Nothing to see here. Nothing to look at here. Yeah. I mean, it was totally legal. They had these. This is what they have in New Zealand, right? So the New Zealand government is supposed to balance the budget by the cycle of this Earth around the sun. But we allow ourselves 10 years. So we're supposed to pay off the national debt in 10 years. We never do. So I don't know what happens to that rule, but it's in our public finance, right? So
that's
I don't know. They have to, it's hilarious, and so I think probably 10 years is maybe enough as long as we don't issue any really long bonds, right? We could probably pay off all the bonds that we issued
year,
within 10 years. Technically we've done it.
Yeah,
it's crazy, but it does constrain our parliament spending unnecessarily. So it's an impact on the real economy in a totally negative way, causing a lot of unemployment, even though it's only, you say it's only 6% or whatever in New Zealand, but total underemployment is massive, more like 20%. And so we're still like way below our capacity as for giving ourselves a decent life, all because of this false thinking about money, about the scorekeeping, about the tax credit. And so, but there is this emergency measure in our law too. So when there's a Christchurch earthquake or the recent floodings from the torrential rains in the north, which are getting more and more tropical thanks to whatever climate, and what other crises did we have? I guess we had COVID. They could always pull out the emergency measure and spend as much as they want. If the Civil Defence Service are available for sale, the government can hire them, or anyone involved in the relief efforts for the floods and earthquakes, and they can issue as much New Zealand dollars as they want on the emergency measures. They just got to get votes in Parliament to do it. So it's just like, what is it? What isn't an emergency to me? It's like, I'm like Bill Mitchell on this. It's like everyone who's unemployed who would prefer to be working and doing something useful, that's an emergency to me. So you pull out the emergency measure every time. Give them a job. Why not do that? And eventually, over time, you just scrap the emergency measure and it becomes normality. Yeah.
So what you're saying though, Ken, is you're surprised that the law was even that flexible to allow, because it seems like the statute tied the hand, that the statute was actually to tie the hands of the FDIC themselves.
I guess they had to loosely define what an emergency is.
Okay.
To bring in clause 13 through bracket 3. So yeah, I think they. Nathan was writing about this.
Approval.
Yeah, Nathan was saying that the Fed and the FDIC, they do have quite a broad scope to interpret some of the text in the legal text.
Hey, what's up, Shot? By the way, I do live streams every Wednesday. Welcome, man. Thanks for dropping by and saying hi. Speaking of New Zealand, do you know who Tom Scott is? This is completely off topic.
Cartoonist.
No, not the cartoonist. The YouTuber Tom Scott goes to.
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
He's almost 6 million subscribers.
Oh.
But he does these really cool videos. He just goes to cool places around the world. Just shows off cool places around the world. Cool little. He's like a tech guy. He used to be a programmer.
Oh, Tom Scott, I know him.
Yeah, of course
He's always
you do.
seemed British to me, not a Kiwi.
Well, he's not a Kiwi, but he went to New Zealand. Did I say he was a New Zealander?
Oh, sorry,
No.
Misunderstood you.
Yeah.
He I know Tom Scott.
Well, he went to New Zealand recently.
Cool. Yeah.
And
oh yeah, I think I saw something.
Yeah, you gotta watch it. The reason I bring this up though is it kind of does have to do with government spending. I'll just pull it up real quick.
Yep.
Apparently, New Zealand has some rats, like invasive species. Mice, maybe it's mice. I don't know. Like they're not supposed to. You guys don't have any mammals on the island, right? Is that what it is?
What do you mean? Yeah, no. We originally, but yeah, no, we got a lot of imports. So the rats came on the ships.
Yeah. So they're trying to apparently part of the island.
And the possums. God damn, the possums. They're not native.
Apparently, they've eradicated rats, mice, one of the two from a good chunk of the island, and he showed the
Right.
government. Hopefully, I don't want this to play, but yeah, they put these traps out there. I'm like, yeah, what a great use of government funds.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's not promoting it.
business.
He's not promoting MMT, but
Yeah.
it's worth a look. I don't know. New
Some
Zealand
madness that gets done. Yeah.
looks
pretty cool.
looks beautiful out there. You can tell it's not the middle of winter when he was recording this, like it is on the other side of the world.
Yeah. This is my thesis, right? Is that New Zealand is a small enough country. We almost got our flag changed. It was just some people just tripped over themselves in Parliament. But we can do things because we're small, and we've got enough resources, so we're net importer. Our exports are very high quality, so everyone complains that we're exporting our lumber and our low value added goods. I'm like, bring it on. I was like, let's give the rest of the world our low value added goods, and we'll import your computers and smartphones. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Everyone's got it backwards. So New Zealand's are actually pretty decent place. All we need is our government to employ everyone in decent jobs, and then we'd be so much better off, even more than we already are. I mean, it's tragic. It's tragic to look at lower income, poorer families in New Zealand. And it's tragic to look my brother who's disabled as well, trying to find jobs and just scratching around. My new friend, the guy who's got his child on ACC and so forth. It's tragic, still tragic, but yeah, we're a pretty decent country, and we could be a lot more decent. But yeah, but the thing is, we can get some crazy stuff done because we're quite flexible. We're quite nimble, I guess you would say.
Hamel just pointed out that he also did a video on the Wellington cable cars. Apparently, Wellington.
Oh yeah, well, there's only two of them. Yeah, they go up and down.
Well, no, apparently houses have these things installed because.
Oh yeah, true.
Yeah.
We've got friends who have these little mini cable cars go up and down.
Yeah.
The real estate. It's good for you.
Sounds like fun. All right, sorry,
it's good
guys.
when you get a bit elderly. Yeah, elderly folks, tracking up their steps in Wellington is quite a struggle.
That's what Hamel, I do remember this video now. I forgot that this one was also in New Zealand, but yeah, that's exactly what it was. This woman bought this house. The video is a woman bought this house and it had this little cable car in it, and that's exactly what it was. There's 100 steps to get to the garage beneath you, and it was for the elderly, so they could go get some groceries.
Pretty good. I guess you have that in San Francisco and elsewhere as well. Right?
I don't think we have cable cars.
No? Really?
Yeah. I mean, they have.
If you've got a lot of housing,
they have the tram, but that's not a.
Okay. Yeah, no. If you build a lot of housing on these steep hillsides, and you've got retired people who don't like walking up the stairs, like doing the Buddhist monk grocery deliveries. It's pretty cool. Yeah, I thought you guys would have. New Zealand's usually late in adoption of a lot of this stuff.
That's why
we do.
That's why we need MMT, right?
Yeah.
Get our cable cars.
Yeah, exactly. Get some cable cars built.
Yeah, I mean, San Francisco has the trolleys that run on that are cable cars, right? Ken, I mean, that's
Yeah.
what you call this. This is a
Yeah, that's what the New Zealand has. It's the actual cable that just gets yanked up and down.
I'm on the other side of the world from San Francisco, the other side
Oh,
of America, I should say.
I should say Ken PDX. I got a lot of reading to do, but I went through Nathan's article, and my understanding was that 13 bracket 3 or something. I might get the numbers wrong. You know how mathematics professors are, right? It's like I had a joke about this the other day. I think I've just forgotten it. But it's like asking me, like Douglas asking me to do some data analytics dashboarding stuff is like asking a mathematics professor to do some basic arithmetic, just actual numbers, no symbols involved. So they're going to hate it. They're not going to want to do it, but they have to do it because it's their profession. And they're going to make a lot of mistakes. More than your average ninth grader. So that's a joke. I quite like doing some of that stuff sometimes, the data analytics. Because I don't do it all the time, right? I do a lot of physics more than data stuff. And so it's just my understanding. But yeah, you should check it up. Don't take my word for it. I'm not the expert here. Probably more of an expert on American law than I am on New Zealand, but it's still way below. God, America is so fascinating to me. America is to me like what the MAGA people want it to be. It is the greatest country on the face of this planet. It's an awesome country, but it's got a whole lot of wacky people in it that make it so not awesome. It's crazy. I mean, sometimes I even think America has so much potential more than New Zealand. I mean, just because you scale, right? I go there and you're spread out like New Zealanders, except you're a huge number. You're 100 times us, but you're so spread out. It's almost insane. New Zealanders are more compacted on little old New Zealand with our small population. We're more compact, and so it's like it's weird. It's weird, but I actually like the compactness, but America is just this grand, big country that does things big, but also can do things small. Because you've got all types. You got minimalist. You got the like Zen type Buddhist people. You got all sorts, and so and all the crazy right wingers and libertarians as well. It's such an amazing country to me, USA, but not in the way the MAGA people think. It's amazing because you've got such the diversity and you've come from a dark place in history with freaking genocide of all the native people and the slavery and all that you got kind of all this sort of stuff. You got to think of a country, its greatness as all its bad stuff as well that it's actually struggled through, and you got to look into the future, all its potential. So although New Zealand might have great climate, and energy regulations and stuff, I think America will get there too eventually. And when it does, it's like, whoa, everyone in the world will benefit.
I hope so. I hope America can be the beacon of light or whatever. I don't know. I forget how the saying goes.
A mess at the moment, politics especially. But
yeah.
I don't look at the greatness of America being its politics at the moment. I look at people like Douglas and Warren Mosler and like the cool crazy people like I don't know Marianne Williamson or whoever, and the total bourgeois normies like Stephanie Kelton. Just it's all just great. You mix it all together and you have if you don't, it's almost like what I blogged about this the other day. It's the inverse Robin principle. This is from Corey Robin, who wrote the book on the conservative reactionary mind. So he says, the conservatives need to create an enemy to rail against. They can't live without an enemy, so they will invent one if they can't, and they will just totally co-opt and use populist. Populist means left wing, basically, populist rhetoric for their own purposes. So, you get like Trump or Buchanan or whoever, what's his name? Goldwater. So conservative reactionary mind, it has to create an enemy to rail against, and it's got to invent them if they don't exist. But there's this sort of weird thing in America, maybe everywhere, I don't know, but you also get like crazy people now also that on the left, they sort of almost need right wingers to exist to rail against. Although you don't have to invent them these days. So.
I think that is the bane of our politics, in my opinion. Is the need?
Yeah, it's a good book.
Is the need for an enemy?
Need for an enemy, yeah.
It's not a necessary step to do, to take a positive. Yeah. It's almost like 40% of this country can't make a political argument that's just positively stated, right? Right. It has to be, we need to do this because of, because of these other people. I don't
Others,
know.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know. That is the part to be just.
And to be fair, you got a lot of this off the British.
Yeah, maybe we inherited it. Either way, it doesn't matter.
I would separate out the Welsh and the Irish from that, but definitely the British, right? So they get adversarial politics, and your justice system is adversarial. You have a defender and a prosecutor. What's that about? So you want to MMT the justice system in a way. You want to have it like, well, let's just find out exactly what the situation was here that we're investigating legally and come to some agreement about what happened. And so you don't. So more like, I think, is it the French system? So the British Commonwealth, of course, inherited also the same stuff that you guys did from the British. So it's all adversarial justice system and all that. Yeah,
Ty is saying my volume is lower than yours. It could be because
I probably have my gain.
No. It could be it's probably I'm just sitting so far away right now from the mic. I'll put the mic closer to me and hopefully, Ty, let me know if that's any better. I could be in my. It's late. I'm starting to mumble as well. Maybe you are.
Get animated.
Yeah, I'll take you down a little. Thanks though for the input there, Ty. Yeah, I was probably
have a little volume.
There is. Yeah, I adjusted that. I'm leaning back. I'm getting tired. I'm about ready to crack open a cold one and.
Oh, that suits me because I got a very busy afternoon today or evening. I'll have to. Yeah, what's the time?
No, I'm saying I'm cracking open. No, we're going late because I'm cracking open.
We're going late now.
Yeah,
I was going the opposite direction.
No. I said no. We're gonna go off the rails. We're gonna talk philosophy. Ty, by the way, if you're having issues with your stream, live streaming and some resources, if you have an NVIDIA GPU that's a 30 series, maybe a 20 series or later that you're streaming off of, you can get OBS. This will mean nothing to anybody, I apologize, but you can get OBS to run off your GPU instead of your CPU, and then your CPU can be freed up to use resources adequately. It's called an NVENC chip on the GPU, but I saw that you said you were having some issues with PC, your PC resources, and NVNEC is the name of the chip that's on modern GPUs. Going back to yeah, I've been very discouraged as of late. Charles, what do you mean in terms of the conversation needs more balance? I'm curious.
Well, we need an anti-MMT perspective, don't we? See?
Well, that's no.
Because just for the hell of it, we have to have the anti to balance it.
I'm wondering if I don't. Yeah, I don't know who would be a reasonable anti-MMTer to even. Yeah, I don't.
It's a really interesting question, though. That is a very interesting question. Would Henrik
Yeah.
qualify?
But
I don't
see,
know.
but
It's
see,
like
I don't want someone to play the devil's advocate. I
you
mean,
don't get to know someone on Twitter either.
yeah, yeah. Um, Going back to, I want to say, I mean, I'll tell you that the political landscape is just discouraging. It really is discouraging. I've been so discouraged by some of the responses to the banking situation. I really do lose my crap a little bit. I saw a few. I mean, it was from the right wing standpoint, it was probably the most parroted response to the SVB and the mini bank crisis. And the response was, see, this is just what years of 0% interest rates do. Right? And it's so discouraging to me for multiple reasons. One, banks are going to blow up, right? And businesses fail. I mean, that's not necessary. I mean, I don't want a bank crisis to emerge, but at the very let's just do base case capitalism. Businesses fail. Okay. Like there's just this, that'll happen. It doesn't have to be contagion after a business fails, right? I mean, if Apple were to fail tomorrow, we shouldn't face the potential for the existence of a world without cell phones, right? Right. But yet we've somehow tied our banking system to that, right? Like this could be a reality where the banking system crashes the economy.
There's always some competitor to come and take the slack. If it's a monopoly, I don't think they are going to go bankrupt.
They don't need to.
Monopolists don't go out of business really like that. So they can run out of real resources, but then they're not socially necessary in that sense, right? So farming is never going to go out of existence unless there's some sort of asteroid or whatever. But a farmer can go out of business.
Exactly.
They don't get enough customers, and it's like a bank. Run out of customers. Okay, we'll have to close up. Almost like no harm, no foul. We couldn't attract customers. We were really slack. We were playing too much golf. Okay, well, regulators are gonna wrap us up. Okay, we'll go on and do something else. So it's crazy though. I was listening to Mike Norman the other day interview this guy Dan Bongiorno. Big trader guy name. I guess others in the chat will know him. I don't know him.
I've never heard of him, but I know
guy loses $30 million in the 2008 financial crisis, and then what does he do? He's like, I'm out of this game of trading. It's for the younger guys, and so he goes into some computer software security business.
Okay.
If you got the means, you can rebound. Blah blah blah. So what were you saying again?
What's discouraging me?
What's discouraging is the whole talk about these low interest rates.
Yeah,
I think we talked about this last time, right? Is that okay, you can have zombie companies exist, but it's not because of the low interest rates. It's just because they're allowed to, exist.
Yes.
False psychology and lack of oversight and so forth. It's not because of the low interest rates.
So that is, I think that's what's the most discouraging part about this is that we had an economy. There's just this. There's this delight from a certain segment, and it's a very vocal segment. There just seems to be this delight that these, we'll call them kids, younger than 30, but are in the working force. Younger than 35, but are in the working force, are now out of a job because interest rates are higher. And if it just wasn't for the Fed, this wouldn't have never happened, right? Mm-hmm. But to a certain extent, like, don't we want? Isn't it better that some 29-year-old kid is going to a job doing nothing than not going to a job doing nothing? I don't.
Oh yeah,
right.
The old fakeroo Keynesian, double fake or whatever you call it. So better to have people dig ditches and fill them in again than than have an insufficient supply. I mean, it's just a joke. It's just a total sardonic humor. I actually, the reason I mention it is because I actually had someone who's like a London School of Economics trained graduate. I was doing a talk on youth unemployment, which is basically just a talk on unemployment because I'm in MMT. Like, it's just a talk on unemployment, explaining the monetary system and how unemployment is just a choice of government to have an unemployed labor buffer.
Yep.
And then in the question time, I got asked, well, but China, they're like, yeah, they're fully kind of, the risk is, they were suggesting, the risk is that, but if you fully employ people, you have to have them in bullshit jobs, like China, building bridges to nowhere, building these ghost cities. And I was a bit flummoxed, and I kind of said, well, you don't have to have them do that. It's a lack of imagination. If that's all you can do to find people to employ them to dig ditches and fill them in again, as John Maynard Keynes suggested, then you should do it. Because I knew she'd been under School of Economics, and so probably knew about Keynes. I don't know, maybe not. But yeah, it's like, gosh, damn. There's so many good things people can do, and machine automation is only going to make us better at doing things. It's not going to unemploy anyone. So,
amen, brother. Well, I mean, it could.
It's like
it doesn't have to.
Ken said, trouble is, it's hard to explain anything to someone without explaining everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's what I feel sometimes. But there are simple ways to put it. You got. That's why you follow Mosler, so you don't talk like a Kelton or a Ray or a Bill Mitchell going on and on. Bill Mitchell's pretty good. He gets some good sound bites through. But Warren is the guy if you want to do social engagement and social discourse, because he boils things down to the essentials, so that the piece that you have to grok is not like dozens of pages. It's just like a one-pager. That's what I'm saying.
I like it.
That's what I feel. It has to be the case, because I'm sure I don't have that high an IQ or intelligence rating or anything. Like me and Douglas, we struggle to read, right? But we force ourselves to read. So if you read one page of a white paper, that should be about enough. I reckon. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't think I read that much.
You read one page.
If it doesn't have an abstract, man. If it doesn't have an abstract, yeah. This is actually becoming a problem, because I've had to. So speak a couple things too. We are working on a dashboard. It's got to be up by like the first week of April. By the end of the first week of April, it has to be done, because I'm not paying for the old dashboard software that I used. So we're working on that. So that'll be cool. And that will also lead the way for some free stuff that will start launching as well, paid free, get the whole package done. There's that aspect. The other thing too that I've Elden Ring. All my friends are playing Elden Ring, man. The game looks terrible to me. Ghost on the Shelf. I don't know.
Too much reading. Too much reading the manual.
Yeah, I need instant. Well, this is it actually.
Elder Scrolls.
I need. Elden Ring is different than I joke with all my friends about the Elder Scrolls. Let's see. God, see, I'm bad. I'm all over the place. It's like squirrel. But the other thing I was going to say is to keep myself motivated to work on kind of the mundane. I did start dabbling in reinforcement learning, which is really cool. I have a small little project I'm working on. One of the things I want to do is my daughter plays Sequence with me. She has Sequence Junior, if you're familiar with Sequence, and I'm like, this would be a great project to create a reinforcement learning bot to play, right? Because there's like a tiny little bit of strategy, but it's pretty luck based, straightforward. But I did start diving into some fun reinforcement learning, which is really, I mean, when you tie deep learning into reinforcement learning, that's where the That's where the real fun stuff is going to come in. I'm seeing the gaming talk and people talking about their wives leaving them because they get too addicted. This is absolutely up my alley,
Oh, really?
man. This is absolutely
Jeez.
up my Ty. Yeah. This is the life I live as well. My wife can't leave me because 4 kids and I'm just too darn good looking. But
Yeah. Yeah, man. You can game and bring in the money. How good is
exactly.
that?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like,
Exactly.
you got the balance right.
Um. All right. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I can't because I find physics far too interesting. Seriously, man, if I was to game, like play your games, which I think I'd love, right? My brother loves it, so it's in our genes. All my brothers love it. I would get high anxiety. I would just get sweaty, like anxiety, like, oh no, I have to read these rules of this game, chess, go. It's all over again. I get such anxiety because I want to know the rules of our universe. This game that everyone has to play that you can't get
Okay.
out of.
Yeah.
You cannot get out of this game.
Yeah.
So until you die.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like, to me, it's like physics is my game, and geez. So I'm kind of jealous of you guys. It's like, I don't know the rules of my game.
I get what you're saying though. I mean, I get what you're saying that there's a certain to a certain extent.
Yeah,
You're
it's so frustrating too because I do have a little bit of the same difficulty with attention deficit, which I'm sure is. I only have an ADHD problem because everyone else has. I think it's a contagion. It's a mental contagion, right? Partly. So it's like, I really just would get actually anxious about it. But the thing is, I find it so hard to struggle through, what everyone else is studying, the superstring theory and M theory, and now de Sitter, or the anti-de Sitter space conformal field theory is kind of cool, but it's toy universe, so it's not our universe. So the de Sitter gauge gravity duality stuff is actually pretty interesting, and I can really get into it. The trouble is, to get into it, I have to go through the superstring theory crap. So it's like I got the rule book of this game that I really love, and I just struggle reading it through, man. Anyway, that's my rant.
I put the poll up. I'm curious. We've got
Am I allowed to answer yes because I like physics?
No. Gamer means you're playing.
I have to
PC,
go
console, electronic.
Damn, PC. Okay.
What's BL2? Ghost on the Half Shelf. That wasn't HL2, was it? Borderlands? Is that what that is? Hamel, have I read on Markov decision chains? Yeah, it's I specifically haven't done Markov decision chain. I get the gist. I am particularly interested in counterfactual regret minimization, which is, I think, the first step that I got to take to get done what I want to get done in deep learning. The
trouble with Markov is it's more of a forward-looking process, So you kind of have to have your causality a bit sussed for that. Whereas I think with reinforcement learning, it's dumb. It's like you give it the controls, it just gets better and better.
Mm-hmm.
You have no idea what it's quote unquote thinking because it's not thinking. So I mean, it works because it works. That's actually a pretty good way when you don't have the causality, which for financial markets you don't. You have to have human psychology and all that sorted out, which no one does. So you win the game in that sense by doing more of the reinforcement learning stuff, because then it just works because it works.
That's the key, right? So kind of the toy model that I'm building just to kind of learn this thing. That's the hardest part, is how do I know that it's learn the right way. I mean, that's the trick to a lot of this stuff. Yeah.
You only know after the fact. With reinforcement
exactly.
learning,
Yeah.
you make sure that you make sure that it works. So the only way you can fail is if you train it on the wrong game.
I guess I guess if you were to use, if you were to build a reinforcement learning bot on something like chess, I mean, obviously you have chess bots, that use kind of the brute force method that you could check it against. But let's just say those didn't exist, right?
It's not the same control knobs. Chess is not a control knob game.
But
so it is a Markov. It's more of a Markov process.
Yeah. I guess something like that.
Update. So it's not a reinforcement game. So reinforcement learning is when you've got control knobs and they don't change. So the way it could fail is if the control knobs change.
Yeah, but you do kind of. I mean, right? I mean, you'd have a control knob for every piece, right? I mean, I know
in your system. Yeah.
I know they use. I know like the Stockfish. The most recent version of Stockfish is both a deep learning and a combination of deep learning and a more traditional. Yeah, more traditional. It's Stockfish 15NN, I think, is the. All right, we've got 71% of you guys and gals potentially that are gamers here, so that just means I'm allowed to talk video games.
What is Myst? I have not heard of Myst.
Myst is an OG game. It is came out years ago, mid to I want to say 95 probably. That would have been.
I once complained. My brother's telling me that the game are going to take over the movies.
Holy cow, 93.
So do you agree? The games are going to take over the movies.
Oh, they already have. Oh, yeah.
Once they get to a certain level, then they're going to be the entertainment because they're more interactive, etc., etc. And I said, well, they don't really tell a good narrative. It's a bit stop, start, blah, blah, blah.
Oh my God.
And I said, tell me any game that's ever going to be as good as either Once Upon a Time in the West or The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And he said, Red Dead Redemption. So I had a look at it and I was like, laugh. Oh my God, that's such a joke. But if you're a gamer, I can see the appeal of it. It was a pretty good one. So I actually sat through the tale of Red Dead Redemption
no kidding.
As a movie.
Yeah.
I sat through it as a movie to see if it was anything like it. And it was a total failure. But if you're playing the game, it's totally different.
Yeah.
It's a totally different experience, right? So I understand. I'm a sociologist here outside looking into you guys. I'm studying you as a community, as gamers. I'm worried that you're mostly male. So there's got to be something wrong about it. I'm sure there's something wrong about it. I can't put my finger on it.
I have
maybe because all they're designed by males.
No. Gaming is there's a lot of females in gaming designing.
Are there?
Yeah. The greatest game I've ever played, and I hope they put the resources into another game, whether it's this series or not. But I hope another game can come out with the amount of money and resources put behind it. But the best game, the best gaming experience I've ever played, and where I'm like, this could be the future, is Half-Life Alyx. It is. I'm not saying it's the greatest video game of all time, but it is without a doubt the greatest gaming experience, and it just blows out of the water any other form of immersive entertainment. Ken, no, they do. No. This is absolutely true. This is absolutely true.
You got me.
All women play games. Yeah, not only do they all play games, but they all play those puzzle games on their phone all day long, and then complain when their boyfriends are, on the Half-Life Alyx though. VR games that are immersive are it's unfortunately.
I was wrong, man. Yeah,
unfortunately, what's his face at Facebook has ruined the VR. Anyway, we are thoroughly off the road, but people are tuning in and staying tuned in. So maybe video MMT is out the door.
I don't know. Yeah. Well, got to be the MMT game.
Yeah. The MMT.
This is, if you want to tie in all the communities that you're interested in, usually you've got 2 that you can tie, but getting 3 of your communities together is really hard. That's a pretty good game to try doing. So for me, it would be like physics and MMT and one of the others that I've got.
Char-
I don't know,
Charles,
but
we'll get back on topic. You caught us. You're right. We are not. That was not in the title that we were going to talk gaming.
yeah, yeah.
But
But
hopefully everyone
Thomas said something interesting. Or was it
about Linus
Ken?
Torvald or
No, maybe not. Maybe it was Ken. It was just a little comment I thought was interesting. No, I've lost it, I think.
I don't know how to get us back on track, to be quite honest. I don't.
Well, there could be a way. There could be a way. Gamify economics. Oh yeah, so it was Thomas, I think. Hi Thomas. Yeah, he was saying he was interested in physics and then went to economics. So just wanted to point out, yeah, that I've kind of the same. It's like the physics is the game to me. Theoretical physics is the game, and but the real world is macroeconomics, and I think it's far more important than understanding theoretical physics is going to have to be a hobby for me if I'm serious, and if I back up all my Twitter talk, trash talk, and all that sort of thing. MMT, getting MMT awareness is a first step in getting macroeconomic justice, and then you've got to deal with all the all the diverging views within any MMT community you have. There'll be people who want to do all sorts of types of politics because now they can. But that's for me is later. It's like getting macroeconomic justice and that at a first level is MMT, and I really think just on unless there's some sort of catastrophe theory type sort of phase transition that's going to happen in public arena, which it could happen. It could be a very sudden thing, although we've had 2 economic crises now. With MMT being in the ether, so to speak, that didn't actually switch on a lot of people. But I still think, maybe the next one, whatever, it doesn't have to take forever, right? And it doesn't have to be a gradual thing. It could be a very sudden change in mind in governments. With if a few key people or a critical mass occurs, then we could get a massive change. And so I see that as hugely important. And I take MMT so seriously. It's far more important than the physics. But yeah, that's trying to bring it back. I'm not sure if I did a good job rescuing us tonight.
Yeah,
I could try more poetry.
Bob Knight just stepped in, asked a question if I'm still long the S&P. I am, still haven't sold yet. If you go back to about 30 minutes from the start of the show, I get into a little discussion on kind of what I'm seeing in the markets. So I spent about 30 minutes, Bob, between now and or between 30 minutes in, spent about 30 minutes, so 30 minutes to the hour mark talking about markets ish. If you want to replay that and get my thoughts. Yes, I remain long for the first time since I entered those longs at I don't even know when I did, at the end of last year, beginning of this year. I'm potentially looking for an exit. It's okay. So in terms of how fast, I used to trade a lot more. But I used to be more active, but I realized, and I'm willing to get more active, but I realized that, and something hit to, 10 years ago when I really first started becoming kind of an active trader, I didn't have a ton of money, right? It wasn't, something happens in your mind. It's one thing to lose a couple $100 in a day. It's another thing to lose a couple thousand in a day. But when you finally get to the point where your swings are above 10, 15,000 in a day, right? That's about when, that first time where there was a 10K loss. I don't know what did it. Right out of the gate for me, I'm probably sharing more than I need to. But right out of the gate, it took a while to swallow a couple $100 loss. But to a certain extent, right. You could, you could go work a few hours and make that money back. Right. that wasn't a difficult thing. But there started to be that point where I mean, and then I went through a lull where I just the losses didn't bother me. Obviously, you get a high off the gains, but then you get to a point where it's like, holy, you see the losses, and it begins to become an input once again in the decision matrix, right? And so I finally just decided I need to. Until I have a system that I trust more, that can trade fast enough where my emotions have nothing to do with the input, that I'm just going to ride the waves and take just stay on course if the flows point that direction. And part of that was because 2019, I think it was the most fabulous year. I think 2018, 2019, my strategy paid absolute dividends. I think I was up back-to-back years over 90% each year, just because the buying and holding just made sense. I mean, it made sense, and the leverage worked. The leverage just paid off, and I was able to catch two really strong runs. And obviously, and then 2021 was 2021 was a great year as well. Essentially kind of the transition from 2020 into 2021. But then like 2022 wasn't the best, but I know that years like 2019 or like 2021 are right around the corner. And to me, the worst thing I can do is try and get too cute, because there are going to be those 6-month periods that will hit that can make you 100%, and you can live through the chop in the meantime. So that is a strategy I've developed, and that's kind of how I play it. With that being said, the stuff I offer at the Patreon, I know a lot of the traders that are subscribed there are what would be closer to what we call the swing trader, day trader, right? They're in and out within a couple days to a couple weeks. I understand that mentality, and so I've got tools that I've built that I've used, but my trading is much slower. And I also think it's a good example until you're fully ready to enter the world of kind of fast-paced trading, in and out sort of stuff, and you have the whole mental game down for that. It's a lot better to do things a little bit more slowly, and kind of prepare for, as I see it, those opportunities to really make the alpha. So hopefully those are some kind of helpful thoughts, and can kind of paint exactly where I come from, in terms of how I personally trade and invest. Hopefully that was helpful, Bob.
Yeah, well, in every trade there's winners and losers, so you got to be prepared to take losses every now and again. Otherwise, what are you doing?
Yeah,
shouldn't be in it if you're expecting.
It is just tough. It is just mentally grinding. And bad decisions lead to bad decisions. I mean, that's just the reality of it. So, I
think if you go into trading without thinking you're going to get rich, but just it's a game.
Yeah,
winners and losers. You're trying to win more than you lose. 10 years later, you've got a good little nest egg that's probably earned a little bit above the base interest rate. To me, you've won. It's like maybe I wasn't the grand winner. I didn't win the Super Bowl, but I had a good run, won some good games, had a good time.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I would think of going into trading is for the fun of it, for that sort of thrill of going up and down. If there's no downs, I'm not going to be excited. I'm just going to be greedy.
Yes.
My take.
Yeah. I'm reading comments as well. Yeah,
man. Here's an next bit of poetry. Their haircuts are. You have to guess the title of the poem. Their haircuts are great. They shan't be late to make the votes that seal our fate.
I have to guess who wrote that.
What's the title? No, the title of the poem. I'll say it again. Their haircuts are great. They shan't be late to make the votes that seal our fate. What's the title of the poem?
Do you want me to guess? I can see it, so I
Yeah,
can guess.
have a guess, man. Oh, you can see it. Sorry. That's what- you can pretend you're really smart. Just too late. Yeah, that's politicians. Sorry, keep going.
Politicians.
What were we talking about? I'm
investing.
The haircuts are amazing. I don't know. Apart from Hollywood, where else do you get good haircuts? You almost have to have a good haircut to get elected, right? So it's kind of like
what are you trying to
haircut?
What are you
reinforcement haircut?
What are you trying to say, man? What are you trying to say?
Yeah, I don't know. Very few bald presidents.
Yeah, my haircut. Ugh.
You can make it work, man. You can rock it. You gotta make it work.
You know what's funny, Bob? Talking about stop losses. I don't use stop losses. Back when I was a far more active trader, I did. But yeah, I don't see. Yeah. They don't fit in my system, I guess is kind of how I'm trying to say it.
Stop loss. What would that be? It's like once you lose too much, you just stop, you just get out of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can put in a stop loss, or you can put in if you hit a certain target, it'll close out.
You put that in if it can go to zero, right? So
let's just say you have a stock that's at $105, and if it goes below 100, then the platform will automatically sell once it gets to once there's a bid below $100. So
that makes sense for a single stock, right?
But
not so much for
no, people will do that with indices as well.
People do that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it makes some sense.
Yeah, to me, if the data says that the price should be higher, then I will be in that position until the data says that the price should be higher. And if I end up losing money because right now is a great example, right? The positions that I'm in, since I got in them, stuff that I don't necessarily track on a day-to-day basis, but I think I'm up in the position that I took from when I took it. But if it turns down and the data turns and it looks like that the market should be priced lower going forward, then I will just get out and I'll take the loss at that point. I mean, it's kind of how I play it. I will admit, relative to the vast majority of kind of the trading world, I take a far different approach. Yeah. Go ahead.
You saying you don't have a particular pain threshold, but you're looking at the data is telling you.
Yeah.
So you're trusting your model.
Yeah.
That's an interesting approach. Yeah. It's like in a lot of ways you're the anti-Nassim Taleb.
On every
not in all ways. There's a lot of philosophy that's the same, but it's like don't get too emotional, But he has a different kind of strategy on it where he says, "Oh, I don't trust any models."
Yeah.
I'm just going to try and price things and then get out if I think I need to get out. I mean, he does have models. Just different site, different type. Right. So, that actually made me think about one other thing you said before. What was it?
I really do
about modeling. Oh, that's what Thomas said before. He said he found it surprising that an amateur can beat the computers these days. Thing is,
say that again.
The computer is programmed, and if it doesn't have a kind of macro MMT type understanding, then there's always room for a human with a reasonably grunty gaming machine to actually outdo some of the trading algorithms, because you're not looking at the high frequency noise. You're looking at longer term. Like when I say long, it might be a day, right? A day or a month or something. I don't know. What is it? What is it that you're sort of looking at? Days, months, years?
What is my
But
time
if you
frame?
have that MMT some understanding of what's actually pushing the fiscal flows around, you're probably, at least for now, would you say? I don't know. Would you say you'd have a little bit of a disadvantage if you have a kind of an MMT background?
I'm sorry, say that one more time. I would have a
If
disadvantage.
you today, with the trading algorithms mostly trading on sort of high frequency fluctuations, so they're doing fractal analysis and all that, they don't get programmed or coded to have an understanding of MMT.
Correct. Yeah,
So
correct.
so Thomas is right. I think you don't have a show against the bigger computer systems.
And
They'll always outdo you. But you've got a haircut. But you don't have to. Like it's like they say, you only have to out. I only have to outrun you. I don't have to outrun the bear.
yeah, exactly.
So you
Exactly.
can always take money off someone else who's not trading very sensibly.
I think what I'm by the way, I did pull up those charts. I can take a look at those in just a second. Bob.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. MMT human beats the computer. It's kind of the idea, but you're beating someone else who's not running fast enough to beat the loss.
What I don't get though when we talk about zero sum games, I think in theory I get that the market's a zero sum game in terms of the winners and losers who take place in betting on stocks. Okay. I still see myself as exploiting. I think what I'm exploiting, right? If there is a true mispricing, it's the mispricing of the how do I put this? The bad decisions that are leading essentially leaking money into to me where I would see where I'm gaining long term is because people don't fully realize the implication of the public sector spending becoming private sector saving, right?
Right.
That if
It's
that
an injection.
yeah, if that got figured out, if that got figured out and fully kind of ingested into the market pricing, then my gig would be up, I think.
Right. Then it would be more of a zero sum game.
Yeah.
Because every trade there's winner and losers.
Yeah,
So
Hamel, tell me
it's
why you would disagree that it's a zero sum game. But because
it's a negative sum game because of the transaction fees.
yeah, maybe that's what he's going to say.
But you're right in a sort of a broader sense, in terms of just the whole macro economy. Per head of population, if the government's doing it right, I'm not saying they are, normally would be a net injection of currency. So the government's running a continual deficit. Okay, we know it goes up and down, and sometimes it gets into austerity where they're almost in a surplus position.
Yeah,
and they can often be in a real deficit position. But let's just say that there's a sort of a base case where the government is injecting currency, running pretty much a permanent deficit. Then I think trading is still a negative sum game, but there are gains to be made by everyone, and so that gets reflected in things like the stock dividends and so forth, and other earnings and profits and all that. And so those are not markets, right? A person's wage, a person's salary, the real output, that's not a market. Well, that's not trading. You trade when you're actually, when you exchange some financial asset. In our terms, we're not talking about real goods trading. So, well, I don't know. What does that say? I still think in some sense trading is a negative sum game. You always winners and losers. But in real terms, it's different. You could still go up, just not as fast as others, right? Because you could still go up, not as fast as others, because the currency, if the government is continually running a deficit, somehow that has to get in the system.
Yeah. So I guess in real terms, it would be a zero sum game. In nominal terms, it's not a zero sum game. from what Hamel is
Maybe.
saying, right?
Yeah, maybe.
So, because I think
But if
that's
you just invest and hold, you're riding the growth of the economy overall. You're not really trading. You
okay.
just invest and you hold.
Okay, but
So
if I'm
that's not a negative sum game.
but if I'm leveraged in doing it, which is
Oh, yeah, if
effectively.
you leverage to it, that's trickier, right? Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if I'm getting leverage at the macro level, no one is loaning me that leverage. That leverage is being created endogenously.
Yeah. Right.
Which I
Yeah. So you're just
guess
trying to get ahead of that
I
spread. Yeah. Yeah.
if which I guess is because here's the thing: if you look at a market, and we looked at this during the last live stream, maybe it was 2 weeks ago. Because if you look at like the S&P adjusted by government spending, except for the .com bubble, it's effectively flat, right? And it is over 40 years. It is a flat, right? The market is flat when you adjust for government spending. But if on a nominal level, if you're leveraged, you're outpacing the market long run. So I think that's how I look at it.
I think it has to be long run.
Yeah.
The high frequency trading, that has to be a negative sum game. And so just don't play it with the algorithms. They're going to beat you all the time.
Which is that is a conclusion that I've come to on the short run. That the
longer run, there's some trading involved, which is still negative sum, but you're riding this upward wave of real economic growth. So I think in that sense, I'd agree with Hamel that and you, I think, he's saying that long run, yeah, for sure, there are gains to be made if you save your money and invest rather than just living paycheck to paycheck.
And then on top of that, I say this is kind of where the MMT comes in, right? Because where you and the heterodox economics as well, where when you want to be levered as much as you in reality can, based on whatever risk metric you want, when you can be levered, there are time periods that I think are identifiable where you're going to get markets to outperform their normal. And I think those time periods are identifiable, right? And then there are time periods that you certainly want to be on the sidelines for, if you can, right, to diminish the effect of drawdown. So, Bob, if you're still here, is this one of the two charts you were looking at? It's kind of an ugly looking chart. I don't know. I don't know if this is a company I'd be touching, but if you think something's there, I don't even know how to apply an Elliott wave to something like this that has been falling for so long. Let me know if this is what you were thinking of.
What was that? Was that marijuana? What?
Yeah, Tilray, TLRY, I think. Trying to look it up real quick. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a marijuana stock. So, it's the whole industry. What was the other ticker, Bob? I'll take a look at that. Okay, Tilray is the biggest. Yeah, I don't know, man. This doesn't look terribly healthy. I don't even know how I'd begin to apply a count to this. Okay, Canopy Growth. Oh yeah, I've heard of Canopy Growth. Yeah, these are pretty big swings, man. You know what these look like? At least Canopy Growth here looks like to me. This looks like almost like a like wheat or something. Commodity that's all over the place. So, yeah, I mean that's 90, 96. Yeah, man, I don't know how well my Elliott tools would perform on something like this. When you get to such extremes where stocks take 90 some odd % hits.
Wouldn't it be too early with legalization of marijuana? It's being fairly recent.
Yeah.
In most states, it's going to take a while for a market to generate some sensible prices.
I mean, I know back when there's a huge
Because you
rush.
still got the black market. Yeah. What?
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. No, there was a huge rush heading into the 2020s as legalization was coming on board across the nation. Which I won't go into too much detail, but believe it or not, from a regulatory standpoint, I was I was a very big I don't want to say player. I was a very active person in that world for a while, but believe it or not, from a regulatory standpoint, the marijuana stuff.
Does it? What I'm interested in, you see, I would be, from our conversation tonight, the chat tonight, I'd be into some gaming stocks, but not one of them, because I know they're incredibly fickle, right? Any one game could just suddenly go off when a new one comes along. So in gaming, I'd be interested in some sort of index fund for games, and just play the whole market of games, because I see that it's only going up from our conversation. So I'd be interested in, like, what's the effect of marijuana on gaming? Does it go up or down?
So this actually happened. A lot of the big, a lot of the big names. Man, the only real inside information that I've ever, not inside like trading information, but the only micro bottom up analysis that I've ever had is AMD back when it was just dirt cheap years ago, and they launched their Ryzen series of CPUs. It's the only time where I ever thought about buying an individual stock, because those were looking legit and they were doing everything right, and Intel was looking like they were starting to lag. They would have played out beyond amazing. But what I am showing on the screen right now is gaming esport organizations, teams went public, and I actually think gaming is in a huge bubble right now that is bursting in front of our eyes. A lot of, yeah,
did not know.
A lot of the organizations, FaZe Clan, if you guys got kids that are 15, they will definitely know who FaZe Clan are. I got the stock chart pulled up. They effectively went from going public to zero very, very quickly. A lot of these organizations that are kind of like they're effectively gaming social media organizations are starting to blow up big time. So I do think the gaming industry is
not mature.
It's facing, I mean, it's going to continue to kind of bubble in, bubble out, bubble in, bubble out. I mean, it's also, it's not at the point yet either where it can be something that a brand can emerge like Nike, right? Because the platform you need, right? Nike was able to emerge to what it was because it had basketball that was going to be there forever, right? But and so you could get an athlete like Jordan and expand, but tomorrow the number one game can be whatever, right? I mean, there's the
exactly.
Yeah.
That's why I was thinking it would have to be some sort of macro index.
Of games as a whole. Yeah.
I don't want to be picking a winner or loser there. No.
Yeah.
But from your chat, the whole sector of gaming, like we said, taking over movies in Hollywood, it's only going to go more. It's only going to go stronger, right?
It is. But in the chat, the gamers, the chat gamers that will tell you this, the biggest companies out there are just terrible companies.
Right.
Like EA and Ubisoft. I mean, their business models are just so toxic in the way that they operate. Right. And I mean, I think the biggest risk to the gaming industry too is a lot of this gaming industry is quasi gambling. I hate to talk so negatively about a space that I love so much, but it really is. At any given time, if policymakers kind of understand what these games,
so what I would develop is, if I was, a Michael Burry or someone, is like bundle a bunch of game stocks, but make it rolling, so any new one can come in. But keep yeah, absolutely. No matter how well performing they are, no matter how well performing, I just get rid of the gambling. No gambling games. It's all the fun games, all the role playing games, all of that,
Yeah.
all the sports games that are just sports. Like people what I've heard.
They
I
don't,
mean,
those
this is
don't those
true.
don't those
I've
don't
heard
exist
people
anymore. They
have
don't exist.
audiences for
They don't
these.
exist.
They don't exist.
There's no such thing as a game that's just a pure good game anymore that you could invest in. Like even the sports games now
Really?
are dominated by what's called microtransactions, right? So you pay $50
Really?
for a game, and yeah, what
Uh-huh.
up, Jack? Yeah, CS:GO has literal casino. Yeah, I love CS:GO, but it is it's I mean I am.
This is toxic.
Oh yeah,
This
Ghost on the
sounds
show.
this
Ghost on the
sounds
house.
really bad.
Elden Ring. Elden Ring is actually the first game that's come out in quite a few years that is just a pure unadulterated video game.
Right.
Like it
Those
is.
games.
Yeah.
That one. That's the one that I'd bundle together. And yeah. I'd bet on that going up forever.
See, okay, this is why. Hold on. This is why individual stocks can be so tricky. This is going to be the lesson of the day.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not saying
Is-
I'd bet in any individual stock. It would be a bundle of the whole sort of sector. I try to say there's a sector here of games, and we know what they are. They don't gamble. They don't involve any, those kind of monetary transactions. They're just entertainment. So people pay to watch it, basically, like Super Bowl.
Yeah. CD Projekt Red created one of the most beloved series of games, the Witcher series. Everything they made touched the gold. And then they came out with this game called Cyberpunk, and it was supposed to be the greatest thing ever. And it needed another year to bake in the oven, and they didn't. I mean, it turned out to be a great game. It just took them an extra year after it launched, and I mean, the launch was just terrible, and the stock, as you can see, got cut in half because of it. So it's so tricky, and they made games. I mean, Cyberpunk is a game. Like it is absolutely a game. The Witcher is a game. There's no microtransactions. But then the other thing too is, yeah, the modding community did help. Yeah, it was a great game. I loved it. I mean, that was a good game. What was I going to say? But the companies that make money though are the companies that like the Valve. The amount of money they pull in on CS:GO monthly is in the hundreds of millions. Is the revenue they make on that game. I mean, and it's all because of the skins and stuff like that. And it's so, I mean, it is. It's a ton of fun. It is super addictive. It is a business model that works, and it works. It's super effective, and they pull in hundreds of millions in cash. But it's a private company, so you can't invest in it.
Yeah, but I mean, I get that. So private, blah blah blah. Yeah. So, but even if they were public, I wouldn't put them in my fictional index fund because I just don't like that model, right?
Yeah.
I'm conservative. I want games, the ones that are fun, and if there's only two of them. Then I don't have an index fund.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying, I guess. Because how do you get something like baseball, basketball, football, rugby? What are the most popular games in the world? Tennis, golf, probably golf. How do you get that in e-games? You don't really, can you? Because they're just so innovative. It's like I said, it's like the movies industry. So. There's going to be a game that's in vogue, and then it's going to go out of fashion.
Yeah.
Except maybe, I don't know, Minecraft or something like that. I don't know what the lifer is. I don't know if there is such a thing in electronic gaming, because you don't have to organize a team on Saturday to play footy out in a park, in a public park, right?
Yeah.
Because you got infinite creativity involved. You can always make something that's going to be cooler, or tap into some zeitgeist.
The only game that has lasted forever is Counter-Strike. That is the one that still exists to this day. Jack, by the way, I'm a CS:GO. Well, I'm a CS player. I started in 1.6. 1999. Downloaded the demo off my PC Magazine CD. um, never. Well, we play Valorant a little. Me and my buddies do. But Jack, if you haven't seen too, CS2 launched today, so check that out if you're an avid gamer.
Pac-Man. That's still going.
Yeah. In terms of gaming, the way that we would kind of see it, I mean, I realize gaming's technically started in the 70s, but
you also got chess and Go and all that, which are going to be forever.
Yeah,
they're not the type that
chess is having a boom, man. I'll tell you what, I play a ton on chess.com. And I'm an avid chess player. There was a chess boom during the 2020 after the Queen's Gambit, and there's been another echo, if you will, the second boom, the follow boom for chess. So chess is blowing up. My kids pulled out my kids pulled out the old chessboard. I bought them I have the piece set, and I bought a new board, and it's literally sitting on our kitchen table, set up at all time. They've been playing, which tickles me pink, because that is cool. That is the OG video game. You hear those stories of Paul Morphy, the kind of first greatest chess player in the world. His parents tried to dissuade him early on because it essentially had the stigma back then of a chess player as someone who just it's just a gamer, right? They were going to live in their parents. Unfortunately, he went crazy and lost his mind. But
oh no, really?
Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah, there was this the coolest game that I thought was going to be super cool for the nerds, like chess nerds, was on the Commodore 64. It was called Archon, and you move the pieces around, and when you want to take another piece on the board, you go into battle mode, and so you actually have to have a battle. So just because you land on, want to take an opponent's piece off the board, it's not a given, right? You don't have it's not like
okay,
the person making the move that lands on the square takes the square. No, you move on the square. It's a risk. You have to actually have a battle.
Yeah.
I was always like, I was always so terribly disappointed that it didn't catch on. But then it did catch on in real life. So they have these chess games where they chess and they do boxing.
The chess boxing. Yeah.
It's like they just need to ramp it up a little.
Yeah.
Instead of boxing, it's like weapons. So you have a stick or a whatever. So your weapon depends on which piece you're using. So if your pawn wants to take a bishop, it's like you've got a boxing glove and the other guy's got a stick, and now you have to beat him.
Josh, my kids, my 8-year-old son is watching, I guess he's 9 now, is watching Gotham Chess on his iPad instead of anything else he could be watching. But yeah, you're right. It became very popular. Oh man. I gotta admit, I'm starting to drag a little. And we've gone off the rails.
That's okay, man.
So
I have a busy evening, so
okay. We might wrap this up soon. Yeah,
we can say goodbye.
I think we might wrap the stream up. I'm glad we got on gaming. This will be the one gaming excursion for the year that we're allowed to give ourselves. Next week, our third hour excursion will be physics. So come prepared. But another good live stream, and thanks everyone for showing up. And Bijou, if you've got we didn't probably look at enough at the tweets, but we will be.
I don't know. I could.
Little set up for next week.
Maybe there'll be more to say on the whole saga. All right, so until next week, it'll be totally tankers, Douglas. While the bank regulators ignore the elegance of the Moslertron, they'll have to grapple with the diabolical legal gimmickry of the Nathan tankers. Will the gimmick utility bout save the deposit holders of Gotham City? Or will the scorekeeping gimmickry prove too fiendishly clever for the central crankers to grok? Well, find out next week. Same MMT Daylight Saving Time, same MMT channel. Rest well, you good people of Gotham Tube, and may the venture capitalists rest okay as well, but not too okay.
Awesome. Have a good night, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Good night, everyone.